I've isolated Cliff's bass track on Leper Messiah Rough Mix. We're going to remix it with Leper Messiah Remastered next. Stick around. Written by James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. Leper Messiah is song 6 on Metallica's third album, Master of Puppets, and one of only 2 songs on the album not to have an isolated bass track. Let's get started. Leper Messiah has no isolated bass track. It's a sad reality, but it's a fact. When I was working on the Kill 'Em All songs, and splitting the bass tracks for the 3 songs that have them, and bass enhancing the other 7, and the Ride the Lightning songs, and splitting those 6 isolated bass tracks, and bass enhancing the other 2 songs, I knew that when I got to the Master of Puppets album, and it was time to do Leper Messiah, that I'd be giving you a bass enhanced version of the song, because it's what I could do at the time. Along the way, somebody pointed out the Leper Messiah Rough Mix on the Master of Puppets boxed set. Now, if you like Metallica bass tracks, this is a godsend, because you can hear Cliff. The song is basically done, the vocals are a little bit different, but Cliff is loud and has not been turned down yet, so you can really hear what he's playing. Now my plan at that point was to give you 2 versions of the song, a massively bass enhanced remaster for the purists, and a slightly bass enhanced rough mix for the bass junkies. But when I was working on Escape, a breakthrough happened. I discovered a track separator which uses AI to give you bass stems from existing songs. And now for Escape, Cliff wasn't really that loud in the mix, so it didn't give you much of anything but the rumble of his low frequency. But for the Leper Messiah Rough Mix, when you run this through the track separator, it gives you almost a complete bass stem. So now I'm able to give you the audio from the Leper Messiah Remaster with the bass from the Leper Messiah Rough Mix. Game changed. Okay, and I have the Leper Messiah Remaster right here and the Rough Mix from the Expanded Edition right here, the boxed set. I want to show you the difference in audio real quick. This is the remaster. Grooves pretty hard. This is the rough mix. Is that Cliff I hear? Yes, it is. So there's this new track separating software called MVSep. I used it. I separated the bass from the rough mix because you can hear it, and I applied it to the remaster. This is the end of the remaster. The cool thing about this is I think he says that's it at the end of the song there. It's barely audible on the rough mix. And I had a version of the rough mix where I automated that up, but you get the cymbals noise, and it didn't sound right. So to be able to separate the bass from the rough mix and apply it to this, here's the problem. Here's the rough mix. So they're about 2 seconds apart, the ending. The rough mix is about 2 seconds longer, just under. So I shrunk the bass track after I separated it from the song by removing basically the ends of notes and closing the gaps whenever there was a silence, between notes. And it took me a little bit of time, but it came out pretty good. As always, the remaster, the bass enhanced remaster, and down here I have the bass stem generator from the track separator in its unaltered state, and I started splitting it up here, and I'll show you the difference. And you can hear the bass comes in early. Well, the bass actually ends 1.5 seconds after the song does. The rough mix, it turns out, is about 1.5 seconds longer than the remaster. Don't ask me how. The stuff was recorded on reel-to-reel cassette. Over time, tape is elastic, who knows. But I'm going to be splitting this song down and removing basically 1.5 seconds of it so that this bass lines up with the remastered drums and guitars. But here we have what it sounds like with this one, and this is what I've split so far. And you can hear immediately the bass is in time. And the cool thing about Leper Messiah's bass track is Cliff does a lot of stops and starts. Dun, 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 dun. Every time he does those, there's a little bit of silence between the notes where I can split this thing down easier, as opposed to a song like Disposable Heroes where he never stops playing. Splitting the track right here. Okay. And as you can see, it's already getting away from us. The bass is behind the song, and that's because the song is literally longer. Right here, that line is silence. When I do my splits, I always try and make them happen between the notes on the line of silence. You do a split in here on one of these ups or downs, it's noise. Now, I move the track over, and I look for a unifying event. Looks like, I'll try this and see what comes out. No overlaps, please. Alright, let's hear that. Sounds alright. Yeah, I think I did it too far ahead. Let's try this right here. Yeah, that was it. It's not going to be too bad, I don't think. Still in time. Right. It's starting to get a little behind the beat now. I'll probably do a split right there and pull it forward a microsecond and see how it works. Been about 15 minutes and got to about 50 seconds into the track, but this section right here was kind of crazy. Check it out. So what's going on here is every time he stops playing, the bass either moved forward or moved back. The bass track sped up or it slowed down. So right here. So whenever you see these gaps, it means that I had to push the track back because the track sped up. When there's no gap, it means I had to pull it forward because it slowed down. But I got it to about up here. That sounds good. So just a few takeaways. The song is 5 minutes and 40 seconds. We're at 2 minutes and 38 seconds, which is just past the halfway point of the song. This is how many splits I've done. This is what remains. I thought this was going to take me about a week or two of just sitting with this every night after work for a few hours. And it's basically coming together. I've gotten half of it done in just under 2 hours, and the rest of it shouldn't be that bad. Made it to the finish line. I decided against compressing this because none of Cliff's bass tracks are compressed. I did lower the volume spikes and increase the quieter parts of the bass stem where the band was at full volume and we didn't get as much Cliff, but all told, Leper Messiah had a total of 125 splits across 5 minutes and 40 seconds, which equates to one split every 2.72 seconds. This song was rough. I want to show you this spot near the end of the song. I'm going to turn off the automation lane and solo Cliff real quick. So it picks up the rhythm guitar's detuning and confuses that for the bass on this generated stem. So to fix that, I'm going to put the read enable back on. Now the automation lane is active. And that prevents it from being really noisy there, because it will be if you don't do that. I'll just fast forward a little bit. Way too much unnecessary noise, but together it now sounds like this. Gone. And now our moment of guitar architecture. Metallica can play the phone book. They can thrash like the day is long. They can play fast, they can play slow. But on every album they take the opportunity to play some groove. On the first album, Kill 'Em All, we got Jump in the Fire. On the second album, Ride the Lightning, we got From Whom the Bell Tolls. On Master of Puppets, they gave us Leper Messiah. And on the following album, Justice for All, they gave us Harvester of Sorrow. Leper Messiah might be one of the most groove-laden Metallica tracks of all time, and Cliff, for his part, lays the groove down hard. Mix-wise, it's your very traditional Metallica track with everyone right where they're supposed to be. Performance-wise, the song does not disappoint. Now it's time once again for the in-album Lifeline segment, brought to you as always by Fresh Produce. No, not the brand, the concept. Eat your fruits and veggies. In this segment, I always ask the question, would I trade? If the song that I'm working on has an isolated bass track, would I trade it away for one that doesn't? And if the song that I'm working on does not have an isolated bass track, would I trade it for one that does? Well, in the case of the Master of Puppets album, there are 8 songs, 6 of which have isolated bass tracks. The 2 that do not are Leper Messiah and Damage Incorporated. With regards to Leper Messiah, it's a killer bass track, but then most of the bass tracks on Master of Puppets are. I would say that the thing that should not be, Cliff only really doubles the James rhythm guitar and only does like 5 little slides to really separate himself from what James is playing. And that song is so detuned anyway that you can barely hear Cliff in all that low frequency even when you turn his bass up. So I would say the verdict is yes, I would trade the thing that should not be's isolated bass track to get one for Leper Messiah. Leper Messiah is done, Orion is next, and it might be the hardest thing I do in the entire series, so there might be more than one episode. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is the Metallica Re-Remastered series. Stay tuned for more. Written by your mom. Written by James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. Nobody else, jackass.